Could you welcome Scott to my story this morning? So Scott, currently we've got this series on sex and just sort of fitting in with that from perhaps a male perspective and point of view. When you were growing up, how did you perceive or regard women in your life?
Okay, I had a very difficult upbringing. I grew up in a very violent home. My father went to jail for what he did to me, so that's give you an idea of the sort of situation I grew up in. My sister was also sexually abused, and obviously my mother was treated fairly badly, so my attitude towards women, I guess you could say, was not so good because of my upbringing. And to make that worse, the years that I came into puberty, those sort of years I spent most of that time in group foster homes. So the only, I guess, look towards women and how you treated women I got from my peers. And if you get an understanding of the kind of people that are in foster homes, some of them are there for their own doings, not necessarily because of their upbringing. So yeah, I didn't have very much respect for women, as you could imagine. I guess it was not necessarily respect, it was a lack of understanding of the differences between men and women.
So the women that you were involved in your life at that time, relationships were fairly open, would you say?
Open to say the least. The type of girls that I guess went out with were fairly broken. I say they didn't have very much self-respect, so they openly gave themselves, to put it nicely. And so yeah, from a very young age, I was very introduced to a very sexually active, experimental type upbringing, which was certainly not healthy in many ways.
So men tend to be wired visually to women, to looking at women. What's that sort of been like for you?
I guess the biggest issue I've had to face, I guess, is the fact that the differences between men and women, like as you said, men are wired visually, they're wired in a completely different way. And I didn't understand that women were wired differently, that women required a different outlook to be in a healthy sexual relationship. And so I guess for me there was a lack of understanding. I couldn't understand, what was wrong. Why didn't they want it as much as I did? I guess, to be honest with you.
That sounds pretty common, really, I think, for the blokes, doesn't it, blokes? So that was sort of you didn't have that perception of the difference between men and women. So what brought about change in your life in that sort of area?
Quite a few things. I guess when I was 19, I became a Christian. I gave my heart to the Lord, and that totally changed the outlook, totally changed the way I looked in every area of life, but especially, towards women. I've been married now for 12 and a half years with my lovely wife. I have 3 daughters. The longest relationship I ever kept was 4 months before that. And that was probably the biggest thing that changed my outlook, was the fact that, I was totally in love with my wife. My wife was given to me totally by God. That was so obvious. My wife, we were 23 when we were married. My wife totally kept herself for the right man. She was a Christian at about 14, and she totally kept herself for the right man. And it was very hard for me at first because I guess coming from my upbringing and from the way my outlook, I really felt unworthy. I felt, why God? Why me, who really, to be honest with you, the ultimate manslaughter, I suppose you could say, would be given such a treasure, such a beautiful lady who has kept herself for the right man. And I guess that brought about within me a real desire to want to treat her right. A journey began. I began to really seek God. Forgive my emotions, it's difficult and also very nervous up here. But I really wanted to honour God with that gift. And so I started to seek God. I started to put myself in a positive position with good people, pastors, etc. And I started to do courses, such as Valiant Man course, which is a really powerful tool for men to have an understanding of how we are wired and how women are wired. And it gives you a lot of keys, powerful keys that help you grab hold of those things and start to walk in victory.
It's a great step you've taken. So, what was it like in that group, for instance, sharing with all guys, obviously, sharing with a group of guys fairly intimate, personal things?
Look, at first it's difficult, especially coming from where I've come from. You know, it is fairly extreme. I'm aware of that. And we have, in these groups, you have about 8 guys that come from completely different walks of life. Some of them grew up in good Christian homes who had a good mentor. But the reality is, after a little bit of time, you know, a couple of weeks in this course, you start to realise that these problems that I faced are really no different from what normal men, every man faces. It's how we are wired. It's really a tool that the devil really loves to get in and utilise and to really destroy a man internally, and also to separate between him and his wife. You start to realise that no, most of us are like the rest of us, and men are men. This is the way we're wired. And so, it's powerful being in that group because you're able to share in an open, honest and secure environment.
And the security enables you perhaps to become a bit more vulnerable than you. Blokes aren't normally good at sharing deep, emotional stuff or personal stuff between themselves, are they?
Absolutely, and the content of especially this Valiant Man course is very good. It's scientific based, but it's also directed for men's understanding, and it opens men up. It brings these issues out, and it gives you the tools to be able to deal with them.
You're actually going to be involved with helping lead Valiant Man next term. So.
Apparently so.
Yeah, so, guys, we just want to encourage you to get involved in this course. I've also done it and found it very helpful. And then also later in the year we have Understanding Your Valiant Man, which is for the wives of Valiant Men to actually look at it and work out how are we wired. We do have more than one box in our brain, don't we?
Absolutely.
Would you thank Scotland this morning? Thank you.